Theosophy, Spiritism and Medium, Conference 18 of HB. And this is a brief review. The goal in this conference is to learn about the schools and to see where they lead us to, understand why they are not going to allow us to reach the self-realization of the being, and most of all, to learn not to mix them with the knowledge. And, well, here we began with the word Theosophy. And Theosophy, when we divide this word in two, we have Theo, which means God, and Sophie, which means wisdom. And the word Theosophy means the wisdom of God. So, we began with the first school, Theosophy. The school was founded by Elena Petrovna Blavatsky. Elena Petrovna Blavatsky appeared in Russia at the end of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century. And her aim was to prevent the dialectical materialism of Karl Marx and Lenin from destroying all of the spiritual principles of this region of the planet in Russia. Skepticism was spreading from Russia through Europe and all over the world fast. So her job was to fight skepticism, and the purpose was to scientifically show that prove that the soul existed. And the School of Theosophy, the goal was to teach and through parapsychology the different powers of the mind, psychic phenomena, astral unfolding, hypnotism, and telepathy. And the materialism was so strong that this was to the only way to prove that the soul existed, God existed. So the goal in the school was to do this through the powers of the mind, like I said, astral unfolding. She proved in public astral unfolding. She was a master of the White Lodge, so as such, she had powers and faculties. So she used them that was her goal. She proved astral unfolding. She did post-mortem apparitions, brought people from the dead. She did, she materialized ghosts and mysterious voices. She proved psychic phenomena. She used telekinesis, and she used various proof that God and the soul, that there was more than just what we can see with our senses, more than what you can just see with your physical eyes. So in the study of this doctrine, we see that the goal of this school of Theosophy was not the self-realization of the being, was to prove that God existed and that we are more than just matter. So this school is fine until this day, but it doesn't lead you to self-realization because it does not teach the three factors of the revolution of consciousness, which are spiritual birth, psychological death, and sacrifice for humanity. So this school today, this theosophical school still exists, but it doesn't teach chastity. They teach that mechanical evolution is going to can lead us to enlightenment, and they teach several things like they make a religion out of being a vegetarian. For one, they do not teach that there is an evolution and the need to revolutionize yourself in order to free yourself. Well, I have to spell that, so I sound strange. Okay, so they This school, what it did, it sought out to keep the spiritual hopes alive and latent so people would not fall into the goal was for people not to fall in the most absolute materialism, and it served its purpose at its time. Okay, so it did, and that was the that was his mission. But it doesn't lead you anywhere. Well, yeah. But now we have the next school, which is Spiritism, and with Spiritism, we know that this doctrine was developed in the second half of the 19th century. And Spiritism teaches the technique for to communicate with the souls of the dead. So in Spiritism, we see that a lot of things are manifested. We see that, and they make people believe they can be cured. They call on the dead, and their material problems are solved. People have answers to their questions. They're in sessions of Spiritism. You can see how several people gather around a table and they hold hands and they invoke the presence of a particular spirit so they can answer questions and help. And what they call a spirit, it's actually a defect or a legion of defects of a disembodied person. They are the defects of somebody who lived. They are not they're not the soul of a person. The soul cannot be roaming around free. These are defects, egos, um, demons, entities, whichever way we want to call them, and they're not the real self of the disembodied person in question. So, Spiritism is usually asked to manifest itself through the movement of things, of noises, of tapping, or they use, like nowadays, on top of Ouija boards, a cup with a pencil that we see in schools, for example. Okay, so then the disembodied person takes possession of one of the people, or one of the participants, who lends their physical body for these entities to manifest. These are entities. And this person is called a medium. A medium because it is a means for the world between the dead and the living. And he or she serves as a medium between the disembodied person and the physical world. So when the spirit takes possession of the medium's body, it begins to speak the voice it had in his existence when he was alive. And those interested will ask things referred to their daily problems, and the disembodied person is going to answer them one by one with the voice they had in their just recent life. And this creates a dependency. We can see this easily in people that live with these kind of practices, with tarot cards or mediumship. They cannot take a step on their personal lives without asking for permission of these spirits. Um, and because they are dead, they have access in the astral world and they can see some things. So they get their answers, these people, and they get fascinated and they create a dependency. So they become used to receiving answers to all of their concerns, both physical and spiritual. And we see that all these people in general, they're convinced that they are communicating with God or a saint. None of them will suspect ever that it is a demon, in fact, or the psyche, the legion of a disembodied being who has no body, no physical expression. It's just an entity. So they have many procedures. They have these procedures consist of they can perform surgeries. Um, Many of those can be healed, apparently. They can, or they appear to be cured permanently. And what this does it increases their dependence of all these procedures. And well, we see how they, yeah, they can't. This becomes some kind of fanatism in spiritism, and we see these schools of spiritism have grown a lot in the last century. They're they've been recruiting, sorry, millions of believers, and they have more and more followers. Okay, we can see that in no way can this does this seek self-realization of our being. In no case does it teach to eliminate our psychological defects. And it doesn't provide knowledge of how to achieve scientific chastity either. So, as Master Jesus taught, you will know them by their works. Let's look at some of the works of spiritualism. They do fortune telling. They do spells. They do prayers. They do rituals. They do Ouija board readings. They do black magic works. They do candle rituals. They do healings. They give a lot of advice and fortune telling in all of their ways. Could be with shells, tarot cards, all sorts of things. And what comes through are these legions, the defects, to come, and they come through in the answers. They have some, like I said, some access to some information, but it is not a soul or a saint like they would think. Okay, so now for last, we're going to see what is a medium. A medium, it is a passive receptive subject. It is someone who gives their matter, their physical body. So so these spirits can manifest. And what they do is they do certain mantras and they go to sleep, and they lean their body forward. When they lean their body forward, they open to the back the motor center, so the spirit can, the entity can, the entity can enter. And what this does, um, they can manifest and speak to this person, to this medium. And the karma for mediumship is very strong. It's epilepsy. All epileptics were mediums in their previous existences, and in the post-mortem states, a medium can remain possessed by a demon. So this depends on the level of mediumship they practice in a past life. Can be strong, or cannot, in some cases, is stronger than others. But they do, because they allow their bodies, they open their bodies to these entities. They still have the access to this even on these next lives. So, with no question, after a certain time, they end up divorcing themselves from their own being, from their divine soul. So, what this does, it eventually takes them to eventually, they end up on the infernal worlds. They submerge involution, they submerge infradimensions inside the earth. And this is very clear that before the White Lodge, a superior being would never use a physical body of a person to come through. They have their own superior bodies. And whatever, male or female, as they have the living temple. A master, a divine God, divine spark would never use a physical body of a person, a random person, to come through. Doesn't need to. So this temple is highly respected by all hierarchies. And okay, and when a master really needs to arrive, it comes through to this dimensional world. He first sends his person a physical body to prepare itself, and then he can manifest himself through through. So the person will have to first disintegrate those works, those egos, or the psychic elements of mediumship, that we can see here how we all have these defects, how we look for external help outside of our inner being, our inner God. We expect help from fortune tellings, from things that we don't consider dark, but they are in fact very, very dark. And this, like I said, the karma of mediumship is epilepsy. We can investigate this very easily in the astral. Anybody? And well, here's one of the techniques that they use to let a entity enter their bodies. They lean forward and they start. The spirit enters to the body, to the motor center. So to end this, by their works, Jesus, the Master Jesus said himself, the Lord of Lords, by their works you will know them. So this is by the works you will know them. So the works are not from the consciousness. They are not from the being who has all the power and all the wisdom and all the light. These kind of works are they have nothing to do with the light. They are exterior. They are outside of the being. And this has consequences. This is entities are the ones that come through, and they will never suspect that they're dealing with entities. And thank you, thank you, thank you.